2025 tax season kicks off. Today, the South African Revenue Service is warning people about new scams or a new scam. Criminals are pretending to do tax refund audits to steal personal information. SARS says that people should not open messages or click on links from unknown sources. Auto assessments will run from today until October the 20th. But how can you make sure that your taxes and e-filing profile are in order? For more on this, we are joined by Keitumetse Sesana, who is the acting Deputy CEO of the South African Institute of Taxation Operations. Keitumetse, I want to start off there just quickly, just clarity around the auto assessment. Is the auto assessment running until the 20th of July or is it until the 20th of October?
Thank you very much for having me, Aldrin. I look forward to unpacking this very interesting topic. So auto assessments will begin today, the 7th of July, because I mean, everything good starts on a Monday, right? So you'll start receiving your SMSs today or via email. You'll be notified that you've been auto assessed between now and the 20th of July. That's when the first tranche of people will be informed that they're being auto assessed. They're welcome to log into the SARS online query service system to see what the auto assessment looks like, if they're going to accept the assessment or they're going to let it go until such time that SARS accepts the auto assessment on their behalf. However, that's the first tranche, but filing season closes on the 20th of October. So you have until 7th of July until 20th of October is the period for normal individuals. The auto assessments run from the 7th to the 20th of July, and then non-provisional taxpayers and everybody else will be given the opportunity to file from the 21st of July until the 20th. So essentially 20th of October is the shutdown for when you need to submit your return.
All right. Explain to us, an individual gets a text message or communication that they have been auto-assessed. They open up the document and there it has whether there is a refund or perhaps liability that you need to still settle your account with SARS. Just explain to us the process around that, and also if you have a dispute, what happens after that?
Great. So from today, you will receive, from today until the 20th, you receive the SMS or the email. You can then go to the SARS online query service, SOX, and you can log onto the dashboard. There's a link on the SARS website. Use our digital channels webpage so you can easily access the SOQS there. Once you've accessed it, you can then navigate to your also assessment status, where you can then check on the icon. All your information should have already been there, Aldred. If you remember correctly, if you just take a step back, employers had until the 31st of May to submit your RP5. Banks had to submit the IT3Ts, your interest certificates. Your insurers had to send through their IT3F. So all that information, SARS has already pulled it. They've assessed your tax. You just merely have to log on and see whether you agree or not. Even if you don't agree and you choose not to do anything, SARS will file that for you automatically by the 20th of October. It will be taken as tacit consent that you agree with the assessment. If you don't agree with the assessment, once you've received it, you're able then to dispute it. There are various channels you can do that. It's legislated by Chapter 9 of the Tax Administration Act. You can then lodge an objection. Firstly, maybe just request reasons, for example, why SARS has assessed you in this specific manner. If you're not happy with those reasons, you can then lodge your objection or your notice of appeal and go through the whole dispute resolution phase. So it's important for you to understand what has been assessed. You don't have to merely just accept it. You are welcome to challenge the auto assessment accordingly before you do so.
All right. Then during this period between now until until October the 20th, if I have an issue and a dispute that I want to lodge against the assessment that has been made by SARS, does this mean that in terms of the process, and I know that you say that there are various other routes that you can follow, but the initial process, would the initial process be that you lodge the complaint with SARS first before you even head to the tax ombuds?
Yes, please. So the tax ombud and even ourselves, such as the South African Institute of Taxation, we're able to assist our members, but you have to exhaust all the avenues available to you before you even approach the ombud or before you even go full head on with a dispute in the courts of law, etc. That's like the worst case scenario that neither the taxpayer nor SARS actually want to have. So you're able to, firstly, we always advise that you request for reasons as to why SARS has, it's an optional first step, but it's a good step. So you can understand why SARS has disallowed a certain deduction. Why have they calculated this also assessment in a specific way before you go head on to challenge them? If you're not happy with that specific outcome, or their reasons don't make sense to you and you vehemently believe that your calculation is correct, you're then welcome to go through the dispute resolution process, as I mentioned, Chapter 9, and we've got the various rules promulgated under Section 103 of the Tax Administration Act. Then you can lodge your objection. There's a DSP-01 form that you're able to lodge. If you're not happy with the objection, for example, SARS has allowed it or partially allowed it or completely disallowed it, then you're able to go to the next stage, which is notice of appeal. But it's important for taxpayers to know that you don't merely have to accept your auto assessment. Although the AI engines have pulled the information together, there is risk of error. So check it. And if you're not happy, you can challenge it. There are legislative provisions that allow you to do that. And if you're still not happy with that, you're then welcome to approach your professional bodies, such as us, the South African Institute of Taxation, or you can take it to the Ombud, who then takes on these sort of systemic issues or challenges investigations and ventilates the issues with SARS.
All right. Then during this period as well, the SARS commissioner yesterday also warning of scams. And we know that during this period, there are all sorts of scams that take place. But how do I authenticate whether or not the correspondence that I have received is actually from SARS and it is authentic?
That's an excellent question, Aldrin, because we need to understand that scammers will find opportunity, right? And this is a prime opportunity. We know they did this with the e-filing profile hijacking scandal that has been going on for many years. And because we're very nervous, we take as if, SARS is this big bad guy, and we just want to file our return, and we don't have a good relationship with the revenue authorities. If we see any correspondence, we just fall prey to it. It's important for you to verify. So if you're not sure whether the correspondence is legitimate, and we are at pains to say, Aldrin, that some of the correspondence looks exactly as that which would have been sent by the revenue authorities. So it's like spot the difference. You hardly can't see it. And if you're a layperson, you will fall prey to it. It's important for you to verify by calling SARS. SARS is improving their contact center, so you can get through to them, call them, or make an appointment, go into a branch to verify. If you don't understand tax matters, because not everybody's an expert in everything, there are tax practitioners who are legislated by Section 240 of the Tax Administration Act that you can then approach and say, hey, listen, I received this communication. This is my auto assessment. What do I do? These class of people are like specialist doctors. You wouldn't go to a GP if you had a diabetes endocrinology problem, right? So go to the tax practitioner and ask if this correspondence is correct, but it's important to be vigilant. Remember, if you fall prey to a scammer, it doesn't negate your tax liability with SARS. So if you, for example, one of the things that we're seeing is people will say, listen here, use my services and I can guarantee a refund. SARS doesn't guarantee refunds. A tax practitioner cannot guarantee a refund. A refund is based on whether or not how your tax was assessed. Either you owe SARS or SARS owes you. And many people go and they utilize the services and lo and behold, there's no refund. Their returns were not filed or fraudulent returns were filed, and SARS will still come knocking at your door because the liability rests with you. So very important, verify communication and ask those who know.
Yeah, then there's of course also the efficiency that is being employed by SARS. And the beginning of the year, we heard around the request that was made by the SARS Commissioner, Edward Kisweta, for more money to be made available to SARS to try and also go after those people that are hiding their income. Speak to us quickly about some of those systems and how those systems are trying to improve the credibility of SARS, because there's also a trust issue that you need to deal with between the taxmen as well as the taxpayers, and SARS employing the likes of artificial intelligence.
Yes. So that was a very welcome. Remember when at the medium-term expenditure framework and the commissioner was given more money, he did say he was going to use some of the money to get in debt collectors. About 1.7 individuals have been hired by April this year. So they're collecting the money to go after those who are wholly outside of the system or those who owe the fiscus. So he said he'll utilize the money for that. And others, and remember when the commissioner joined in 2019, he said he wants to change this revenue authority to be more data-driven, more technologically advanced, and he is doing those strides. Look at the introduction of auto assessments about 5 years ago. So he's utilizing that money in the systems. Although it is a good thing, AI can still make mistakes. So it is important for us as taxpayers, tax practitioners to check. He has also spoken at the preliminary results earlier this year that SARS government departments have been operating in silos. So he's pushing towards this whole of government approach. And that's where these AI systems, and I would assume where he will make this capital investment in order to streamline these systems so that if you receive, monies in this account from the bank, it can flag it on this side with them. If you're a supplier and you listed on the central supplier database, but your tax returns are incorrect, then it will flag it with SARS. So these systems, I think he'll be utilizing the money to streamline so that this whole of government approach is an end-to-end process for a taxpayer. As Keitumetse, if I'm transacting with one hand of government, SARS has to know and has to collect the money. So that is where I feel that some of the money would be a good investment to utilize it that way and makes it easier for him as the commissioner, but also for taxpayers to have that seamless process.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Keitumetse Sesana is the acting